Alright guys, so we're going to take a bit of a dive into the AKAI Force today. I've been using the AKAI Force a lot to do a lot of the percussion work on the last couple albums I've done, the Force and the MPC. Now, you're able to get in here and add a lot of effects and do a lot of like sort of basic production work, but sometimes I like to leave a lot of that just for working within the DAW. The DAW is designed to be able to work in that capacity very quick and intuitively, and while you can do it on here, it's not always the fastest. However, it can work in a pinch. If you need an EQ, you got an EQ, move forward. Now, so doing percussion stuff, this is where I find something like the Force and the MPC Live shine. They have some very capable and cool synthesizers on here, especially Hype. Very, very cool stuff. We'll talk a little bit about that. But right now, I want to focus on translating an Ableton set into a Force set. Now, if you look at the Ableton program I have up here, aside from track 1, which I'm using for monitoring, just like that, I have all these up here. So I have a few kicks, a few cymbals, and then it delves into things like Easter Island, Albion 1, Albion 3, Albion Tundra. Those are some of the Spitfire Audio percussion sets, and I sampled those out to be just samples on drum racks. All these HZ ones here are from the Hans Zimmer percussion library, also from Spitfire Audio. And as you can see, there's a fair number of those. All the ones with HZ are the Hans Zimmer ones. It's a pretty cool percussion library, lots of versatility inside of there. Lots of cool sounds. Again, I sampled a lot of those out and just put them in here. I have a lot more percussion sample libraries, but, you know, I don't need to have them all in here at one time. And then the last couple fill out things like darbuka, bongo, some wood blocks and such. And that just gives me like a starting basis for putting together some interesting percussion. Now, one thing that you can do, you'll see that it's labeled Tribal Set A. You can save it as an ALS set, and then you can open the ALS set inside of Force. So if you were to go to Force, and I will give us a look at Force. In 1 second, there we go, okay. So here we are with Force. We can look at our browser, and you'll see I've already navigated there, and you'll see all your Ableton stuff. Matter of fact, I'll go up a couple steps, and you'll find Tribal Set A, open it, you'll see the project file, and everything as it would be if you were looking at an Ableton thing. So you can open up your Tribal Set A. I will just go straight to loading that. There. Go straight to the mixer, and you will see that everything is labeled as it was previously. Kicks, cymbals, Albions, all the Hans Zimmer stuff. Finally ending in darbuka, wood blocks, and bongos, and the option to make more tracks. You could also swipe further and get into submixes and so on, but we're not going to worry too much about that right now. All right, so now, how do we start layering things up? Now, here's where things obviously can get pretty ridiculous. You can grab any one of these, play the samples off of it, but first you might want to think about making a clip, or you can make a clip while you're recording. There's different ways to do it, and that's one thing that's really cool about Force, is that it gives you different ways to do things. So I'll just start with one simple way. We'll look at just that sound there. Now, I'll double tap that to make a clip and hit it once to get it going. Press clip, and next thing you know, you're in clip view, and you'll see the piano roll on the side lines up with whatever you're hitting at the time. Now, different ways to do this. You can go in to grid and just start tapping those in, however you want to do it. That's one way to do things. Additionally, you can also just record them in by hitting record when you're doing something. Now from there, you can do more work on this track or start jumping right into other tracks. We'll go back to our mixer, have a look around, see what else we might want to add. There's some buckets. And when you totally botch something, you have undo. So we can play it a little more traditionally. Are there more ways to add notes in? Absolutely. Let's have some more look at some more ways here. Some pretty cool sounds in the bombos. Now from there you can look at your step sequencer mode. You have lanes of sequence up there, the notes you're playing down here, and velocity sensitivity down here. You'll see you have a graduated velocity sensitivity, and those are... I forgot that the clip automatically gets generated the second you hit anything in there. It gets generated and hits go. So, yes. You find the note you want to play. The velocity you want. You tap it in. You can make those at different velocities. Pretty straightforward. This gives you more lanes of sequence, so you can just sequence things that way. Then you hold this down, and then you can get to different bars or different types of sequence mode right from here. Pretty cool stuff. All right. We'll just jump back to this mode. Go back to our mixer, have a look at what we might want to add now. Let's try some anvils. So you can move along, find some different sounds that you might like to play. Let's look at some taikos. Now we'll find something a little more darbuka-esque. Just fun to jam out on it. Such a fun instrument just to rock out on. So, let's record a little bit into that, I guess. Now, if you wanted to, you could go in here and start selecting things, moving them around. So you grab that. You could just move notes around, the whole shebang. You can also adjust your clip lengths and stuff from here, how everything's triggered, trim things, and the whole shebang. I mean, really, you could just get a little nutty with it. There's also a list editor, if that's how you roll. Personally, I don't really connect with list editors, so I rarely use it. There's also arrangement view now, so that you can record from the clip view like you would in Ableton and flip that over now into arrangement view, which is pretty cool. And then you can just flip back into clips. Back into your grid over here, and voila. Now, if you ever want to stop a clip while it's playing, you have the options down here. A little bit out of camera frame, but know that you can stop them. Let me just go back up to launch. You'll see the clips kind of glowing here. While it's playing, if you hit any other clip, it'll stop those ones from playing. Or not. Or not. Let's keep going. So now you start to see how you can quickly start putting together layers of just juicy percussion. Now, can you delve deeper and do more stuff? Absolutely. Let's just throw a kick into the mix. We'll go to my notes. There's a nice kick. Let's go to our step sequencer. So you can take all that and start turning it into like some just straight up techno. So many times I've been on the way to shows and not having a set put together in the slightest, and then while I'm on the airplane, I'll sit there and break out the MPC and build the set on the airplane on the way to a show. Well, now that you can import live sets, you can develop stock material that you can then build quickly from, rather than, like, to explain a little bit better, on the Force and on the MPC, you can build pretty much anything from samples that you have on the hard drive. It just takes a little while. It takes a little while to build kits, arrange things how you want. Sometimes being able to build that over days or an hour if you're in a rush inside of Ableton, and then just bounce it out to here like I just did today, like having no note information, just having the stock samples laid out. Such a huge time saver. It's pulled my butt out of the bacon a few times. Yeah, anyway, just delve right in. Now those sound pretty static. If you were to just leave them like that, they just da 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 da. Like if we go to our mixer, I'll just solo that channel for a second, and boring. So we can go back into our clip, go to our grid editor, and bring this up, and you'll see all the velocity down underneath it. Now you want to make sure that you have pretty well everything selected, because then you can start messing around with the velocity on all these things. So you can have it start out strong, go out, and build up high towards the end, and just get some. Ooh, you shush there. All right, there we go. So now when you play it, it can change it up a little bit. A little bit. I mean, ideally, you'd probably want to break out and use different samples. Oh, let me just undo that little ad there, which you absolutely can. You know what? Let's try that. Let's get rid of some of those. We will grab some of those. We'll hit transpose, and we'll bring the odd note up into different ranges. Play some different sounds for the a few notes here and there. You'd be amazed at how this can just liven things up a little bit. Yeah, let's just hear how that sounds. Give it a little bit of variety. Now, so you say you wanted to mess with this a little bit more. Well, you could look at your mixer and you'll see volume, pan, and volume, which starts breaking out individual things like mute, solos, record, like automation, read, write, and so on. At the bottom, you'll see you have your pan assignments. So if you wanted this just to be assigned to side A as opposed to side B, you can do that. So that's where you can quickly assign a bunch of those. And now with the new OS update, you can actually assign like boatloads of effects or whatever you want to this thing. You have stacked up macros and everything aside to the crossfader, which is pretty powerful when it comes to performing with this thing. So if you go over a little bit further, you'll see that you have send effects and then just straight up insert effects, which are a lot of fun. Also, you have input output. So if you want to run this thing to a bus, so you look at here, you have various sub buses and then the outputs. Outputs 1, 2 are your main outputs, 3 or 4 are the secondary outputs on the back. Yeah. And then you have 3, 4. Oop. Get back here, you punk. Yeah. So yeah, you can set them out mono or stereo sets. So we're going to look at effects. Now what would I want to do with those dolls that are playing? Let's add an EQ straight out of the gate. So you go into here, you can select any one of these. We can use a filter or an EQ. You know what? I'll just grab a filter because we're going to filter stuff out of the bottom. We can have a look at it. Bada bing. Choose the type of filter that you want. Well, I'm going to want a high pass, say a high pass 2. Bring down the frequency a little bit and play it out and listen to it. Just because the low end on a lot of these things, when you start stacking up boatloads of drums, you're going to be saturating tons of frequency ranges, and you want to limit the amount of overlap that you have in a lot of the frequencies so that you're not just entirely nuking your mix. However, saturation is right built into the filter, which can sound amazing on drums. Let's hear how it sounds on here. Yeah, that sounded pretty cool. I'm down with that. All right, so let's hear how this sounds in the whole mix. Go back to here, pan volume. Now we're... Pretty great. All right, so let's see if there's anything else that we want to add on this session right now. I've got some sessions that use pretty well every track in in the entire thing. Why? Because you can, if you go into your matrix, we're on just the first row of clips. You can build downwards. So you can start at the top and then work your way down the grid and have all kinds of clips to play with. I'll show you guys something else I did a little while ago that is a lot of fun for helping with some kind of live shows that we do. So let's look at some tone back. I like the ping on that one. Bongos. I like those 4 right there. I think we'll build those into something. Now for this, I'm going to go into clips, create a new clip. But we're going to make this one go 8 bars, so quite a bit further than the other ones. Now we have our clip. We can... actually record anything to that clip. I don't think I did. Alright, well, let's do that again. I will take this, you know what? Well, maybe we can do this on the sequencer here. Yeah, I guess. Try this out this way. Make sure I got my grids lined up more or less. Alright, let's try this out and hear how that sounds. Yeah, that sounded pretty cool. Nice little bridged area inside there. I'm digging it. So, say we wanted to grab some of this stuff here. We'll grab all the stuff that we just recorded, shift, duplicate, and you can just duplicate that down the chain if you want. So, now that's going to get boring if that is just up like that the whole time. So we can now start looking at adding some velocity to the whole things. So we go in, we're going to want to select pretty well everything to start with. Once you got that selected, grab your pen. Oh, I must not have everything selected. Hello. There we go. Come on, you. There. A little bit of a pain at the start, but there we go. So say I want to start that out kind of low and then have it crescendo towards the end of all that, with the odd build inside there. So, you're being a pain in the butt. So I'll bring a couple of those up, just add some little accents here and there, and then let that build in. So let's hear how that sounds. There, so you get an idea how that works. Of course, I realize that the little side of view camera here is covering up a portion of the screen on the Force, but I figure you might want to see everything and not just that little bit of the screen on there. So be it. So what else we want to look at here? Anything? I think maybe we're good for now. We can probably look at taking this somewhere else. Oh, I know one thing I might want to add in, if I can find it. What did I have that under now? Piazzi. Now I know out of the gate I'm going to want that whole reverb tail to just get a little crazy on that Piazzi. So go to our mixer, go to effects. Now you could use Ascend. Normally you would use Ascend on a reverb, but you don't have to. I'm only going to want it for this one thing on here. If I'm working in the DAW and I'm in production mode, I will 9 times out of 10, unless I'm doing some like cool sound design kind of stuff, I will use a reverb on Ascend. But we don't have to. The Brave New World, man. We don't have to. There are no rules. So let's just grab a reverb. Okay. So we got a reverb up. Sure. Let's roll with it. We want the mix down a little bit because we're not on Ascend. All right. Ooh, I like that one. So we made one simple crash go on 4 loops. This one will go on 8. Pretty groovy. Now, if you really wanted to get into nitty-gritty stuff on here, and we're really going to talk nitty-gritty for a minute, you can start to do some really funky stuff on very simple things. So, in order to describe this, we're going to stop all the clips that we're playing right now. So we'll look at our matrix. We'll see now that we no longer have any clips playing. Just like in Ableton, when you hit something on the side, it launches all the clips that are in that row, just like this. And you hit one down from it, it'll launch all the ones in there. We don't have any in there, so we don't have to worry about it. However, what this frees me up to do right now is to go over a few things with some little interesting, bizarro tricks that you can pull off. Ooh, let me just move that back. Bizarro tricks that you can pull off inside of Force, as well as the MPC. So let's look at an instrument we haven't used yet. What is not in mixer mode? Okay, what is a good one here? Should we look at? No, let's look at Tom Beck. Yeah, we'll look at Tom Beck. All right, have we used Tom Beck yet? We have, but it's fine. Yeah, it's good. So, what we want to do now is mess around with timing on the Tom Beck. So, if you go into your here, go into your track edit. You're going to see we're in the track Tom Beck, and you'll see that you have that sample right there, and that is the picture of that sample. And it changes for every pad. You'll see we're on pad A1. That's a sample on it. Now, are you able to add more sounds to any one layer? Absolutely. You'll see layer 1 has that sample, but there's also layer 2, 3, and 4. You can go in and select whatever sound you want from whatever anywhere inside this thing. So now we can just start grabbing whatever. Let's grab, actually, let's stick it to, I should have grabbed something lower in the alphabetical order, all the way back up to Tom Beck's. All right. All right, so we're up in here. Let's grab Tom Beck 9. So yeah, we have 1 there, 9 there. Let's grab another one from here. Look at us go all the way down. Oh, okay, no. All the way down, I say. Sometimes the touch screen is a lifesaver. All right, Tom Beck's. We had 9. Let's grab 5. And for layer 4, we shall scroll all the way down there. Why didn't I start with a bongo? I should have started with a bongo or a darbuka or a djembe. I mean, so many things are lower in the alphabetical order. Okay, so we'll grab 11 on that one. So now we have 4 different layers. When you replay that pad, that one pad is layering up all those 4 samples. And you can see those all listed here. Now, those samples you can have different volumes for. So you can create kind of like a super Tom Beck sound, but you can also go in and you can pan them separately, which, you know, you want to get a little bit of a wider sound. That big bassy one, I'm going to want to keep that kind of center, I think. So, now what you might want to try doing is going into this spot right here. And these are basically playback offsets. So when you hit it, you notice everything starts at the same time. What happens if we were to drag one off? Now you notice that it starts playing at a different time. And when you start to drag all these off a little bit, now it starts to sound like really cool one-off hits that you can do. All of a sudden, all these different sounds are, you could think of it as like a guitar strum type thing. Multiple hits going on. It sounds like multiple players are sort of involved in like an ensemble playing this. And you could adjust the nature of that ensemble by adjusting how aggressive you are with your offsets. Of course, that is not applied to the other ones. So you can have a normal kit playing along, and then have a layer, like the bottom row might be offsets. Right, so if you're to create 4 or 8 groups of offset stuff like this, and you can play through them, some of them with like really tight timing, some of them with more wide open timing, all of a sudden it sounds like you have a whole group of players all playing at the same time, more or less in time with each other, but you all have that human looseness to it. I'm showing you on one pad, but to really be effective, you're going to want to do this across 8 pads or more, because then it'll feel like all these drummers are playing at the same time, all with different strokes going on. So that is pretty cool right there. Now, say you wanted to go in and filter things down. You have this handy envelope and filter with a little bit of modulation section. So you have your amp envelope, you have your filter envelope, the kind of envelopes right here, modulation sources, and the kind of filter that you're using. Right now, our filter is set to off, but you can go in and pick any one kind of filter. You can double tap it and pick one of a bajillion filters on the thing. They have quite a few. I'm pretty happy. So we'll just grab low 2, and then you'll see that you could also do it by hand. Right. Now, if you wanted to have an envelope applied to that, you can lower that down, bring up your envelope, and then you can control your envelope from here. Now you have an attack decay envelope, but you also have attack hold, decay, sustain. They label them a little bit weird, but they're cool nonetheless. And if you tap that little area up there, you have a bit more of a hands-on approach to how you're working with your envelope. And then we'll bring up the envelope again. I digress. You don't need to do any of this, but sure is a lot of fun. Now, you'll notice that when I do something, say bring that all the way down, you hit another sample, it's not applied. It's only applied to that one. Say you wanted to apply it to each percussion hit individually, do you have to go along each one and do it? No, you don't, as a matter of fact. I will just open that up real quick. Now, if you go here and tap the little, like, it looks like a little balloon or a pin button, you tap that and you'll see you have zones. Current zone, we'll notice that we're adding just that little green one. We're just adding one pad. You can go in and select multiple pads or select all pads. We'll just select all pads for a minute. Now we will grab a filter type of low 2. Now, no matter what sample we're on that particular filter type. When we bring it down on the cutoff, all of the pads are now filtered out by that much. Now, you could just throw a filter on the whole thing, true, but this is good for doing setups. So if you wanted to set up a filter to operate differently across different things, but a filter nonetheless, you can quickly throw a filter on there, and then for the individual samples that you want to have a different kind of filter on, well, you can just go in and tune up those samples differently. Or if you had a whole bunch of samples that had huge ring outs, like huge amounts of reverb and delays, but you wanted to tighten them all up, you would select all, tighten up your envelopes, like all your envelopes on it, so you can turn a whole set of big hits into a set of really tight hits. Really useful. So I will get rid of all these filters. We don't need them. Now they're all set to off, and I will go back. Now, one thing you want to make sure you do when you're done that, go back to current. There's been a few times I left it on all. I went back into editing and realized I was editing everything. I was like, oh no! And that's a hard feeling, because sometimes undo will do the trick, but sometimes you've been doing that for a couple minutes, and you just don't want to have to deal with that kind of mess. Also, you have effects and modulation and stuff like that. So you have LFOs, which you can assign here. I'm not going to get into LFOs and stuff, right? But you have a few limited modulation destinations. I wish they had more. However, they've really opened up the Force and the MPC with automation. Now you can automate the living hell out of everything on it, which is fantastic. And when they first introduced the automation, you could only record the automation or re-record the automation. You couldn't go back in and edit the automation. Well, now you can edit that automation both in clip view and in the arrangement view, which is really handy. This thing is practically becoming a DAW on its own. Now, effects. You'll notice that we have 4 different effects. These are not effects that get applied to the whole kit that we're working on, the whole program. These are effects just for pad A. right? So you'll notice that the pad number still changes. So you have 4 different effects on every pad. Amazing. So let's look at this. Again, you have lots of different kinds of things going on in there. What might we want to add? Let's look at harmonic. We'll add a bit of distortion. That's a lot of distortion. I want a little bit. So soft. That's still hyper aggressive. We're on 100%. So just enough to beef it up a little bit. A little bit of crunch in the mix. A little bit of saturation never hurt anybody. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So now you can do all this kind of things on per pad basis, which is really quite fantastic. So say we wanted to go in and sequence a few things now. Well, let's add that in there and hit go. Oh, we want to get our clip going, don't we? So obviously super basic. We're just going to throw a few things in there just to have it. All right. So now you have all these knobs right along here. You can adjust what those knobs do. In fact, let me just adjust the camera here so I can pull that back out and maybe we can get some of those knobs in the camera view. Does that work out? Okay, I'm sure you don't. I have this thing tilted up and the camera's coming from down, and since that it's at an angle, you're not going to be able to see the writing on each of those. I'm sorry to say. But this is what it is. If you hold down knobs, the button, you'll see all these selections as to how you can assign the knobs. These are basically preset ways that you can assign the look of your knobs. I'm realizing how that's sounding. But it's the language they use. You can adjust the assignment of your knobs. I am 3 years old. Okay, so you can go into having tempo, time correct, and any one of a number of different things on here. Control of your sends, etc. You press that again, and apparently there's only 8 on here. But if you go into other different views, you will see, we'll go track, and now you have control of like track-related things, volume, pan, things like that. We can go into track FX rack, so you can build FX racks and have control of them from there. Project, so you have control of your outputs and whatnot. So anyway, lots of different stuff you can have control of from there. Go into clip view, and all of a sudden your strips, they changed everything that is helpful in controlling clips. Now, one thing that we're going to do a little bit of is what should we do now? Record a little bit of automation, perhaps? I'm going to go to the mixer, go to the effects on the mixer. Now, when you apply something on here, it's applying to the whole thing. So, we'll grab that. I will grab a filter. There, let's grab this filter. We've seen this filter before. We're familiar with it. The panel jumps to controlling exactly what that filter is all about. So we'll hit play. So now we've recorded filter cutoff automation into the clip. If you go back to your clip view, you will see right now you have a velocity on there, but you select that, you can add a new one or just jump to the straight one, the one that you've just recorded, and you'll see the automation there. You can grab your little tool icon and redo the automation however you want. The automation will go to whatever resolution you have your quantize set at, so you can adjust it all from there. So yeah, there you go. You can edit your clips a whole lot, as you can see, lots of various options. You can export individual clips as a MIDI file, so if you're like working on something really cool on here, you can just shoot it out, load it into a DAW, or load it straight to another track playing a completely different sound. You can merge pads, copy pads, adjust your pitch quantization, lots of different stuff, right? You can clear the thing out if you just don't like anything that's going on there. So super cool. Go up here. Now you have your grid settings, how things snap, how things scroll along in the grid. So anyway, that's pretty exciting, pretty cool stuff. Being able to edit after the fact is amazing. You used to not be able to do it, so the fact you can do it now is pretty great. When you go into list, you'll see that the cutoff frequency is now on the list. So when you scroll down this list, you'll have all the different incidences where, and lists are long, and they don't always make sense to my ear, but you can get like super nerdy, and you'll see you get length and velocity when there's a note on. However, between the note ons, you can go in and adjust the frequency on a very detailed level. It records an incident for every point of resolution on the change. So, you know what, let's actually try this. We'll go in here, we'll change a couple of these to be really low. And you'll kind of hear, we'll do 4 of them back to back. Change them to be really low, and then we'll just play this. So, I'm sure you heard that little spot. Let's go back to our grid. Cut off. There we go. Now you can see that little dip that just happened there. That right there is where we, in our list edit, brought down those points. So yeah, you can get in there, do list editing style, and things get a little weird. There's some people out there that buy like dedicated list editing sequencers and swear by them, and all the power to them. I mean, whatever makes you express yourself in the most interesting ways, I'm all for it. It doesn't always work for me, of course. I'm more of a hands-on visual, look at what I got going on thing, rather than trying to, for me, interpreting a list in a linear sense doesn't. I get lost easy, I guess, in that. Perhaps if I was to sit with somebody for a long time and have them show me more of how a list editor works, it might be a lot easier. But as things stand, All right, so we're going to go back into our mixer, look at this, and you know what? I'm going to trash this. I don't want it in there. We're just doing that for an example. But the real important part of all this was looking at your actual sample. Go back to here, program edit, hit that one, and finding your samples and knowing that you can offset them like that to create cool ensemble kind of things. You know what? We can actually probably do that pretty quick, right? So if you hold down your pad, or you hit copy, press the pad, and then hit another, and another, and another, another. So now I've copied that pad to these 8 pads. So all these different pads are now playing the same set of samples. From there, I will pick different offsets for these things. Now that I've copied those, changed the offsets on all of them, now you can play that group of 8 that I just generated. Of course, I went a little hog wild, and some of the longer you make it, the little more ridiculous the offsets are. Now, of course, I would also want to do different EQing and such on each of these now that I have different things on different pads. Even if it's the same sound, adding a different EQ on it can help separate the difference between them a little bit. You don't want to always have like the exact same thing because you're going to be masking the hell out of everything. So on that, I might go in and, oh, that's on a, I would do that actually in program edit mode. So go in here, on that pad, right now we have distortion, but I'm going to add in a filter real fast. I will pick a high pass on this one. High pass 2. Oh, it's doing it on all of them. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Oh, never mind. That's for the... I'm having one of those kind of days. All right. So, anyway, you can get a little bit of adjustment through there. Different kinds of things, different kinds of sounds. Create variety in what's going on. So it no longer sounds as static as it did. You are using offsets on different hits to create a more of a multi-layered kind of sound. So now, because we're operating similar to Session View in Ableton, you can go to your launch. We'll see that that one right now is playing, but we can start playing any of the other ones as well. Pretty cool. I'm loving it. Now, obviously, this isn't mixed. This is just me throwing a whole pile of stuff in. Right, get the creative part done, get that idea out, get that thrown into something, and then you could finesse it all you want after the fact. But sometimes just getting that creative stuff down in your DAW or on your hardware, just get it down, get it created. You can clean everything up after the fact. Anyway, there's a lot more that this instrument can do. I mean, we really didn't even get into... let me just select this out here. You know what? Maybe we will. We'll take a minute and just have a quick look at one of the synths that they have on here. Because you can create some really cool percussion on this synth. There you go. So I want to make a new track. You get different kinds of tracks that you can make. Audio, drum, plugin, key group, MIDI, or control voltage. I'm going to go with a plugin. Now, the kind of plugin that you get, the default one is Hype. And that's a default one for a good reason, because it's a really, really cool plugin. So you go down to notes on here. Editing this thing is a breeze. So, what you want to do is go to Edit, Track Edit, takes you to your actual plugin. The knobs to the front automatically are assigned to what is going on inside the synth. Now, watch, I'm not going to explain everything about the synth, but Watch how quickly you can turn this into some interesting percussive type sounds. Yeah, that sounded pretty cool. So I'll go to my step sequencer. It already starts generating these things. Now from there, you can also start looking at, I mean, that's just the basic stuff at the front. You can turn your effects on and off, control some of the basic parameters of the effects as macros that have been assigned to the front page, so you don't necessarily have to delve in further. But if you want, you can. You have some basic envelopes for both your filter and your amp envelope, master filter, as well as something called amp spike. Amp spike is a really cool thing. Basically, it helps you, it translates the front of your attack and just spikes it up really big. So think of it as like a secondary envelope that isn't necessarily related to your amp envelope. So we'll hit play, and then I'll bring up the spike, and you'll see what I mean. So yeah, you can start to see the speed of which you can generate some really kind of interesting percussive stuff using hype. Obviously, used for lots of other things aside from percussion, but the speed at which you can do percussive stuff on that particular synth is really impressive. Also, just the different styles of percussion that you can pull out of it are very quick. In the modular world, I use something like mutable instruments elements because of the different types of percussion that you can squeeze out of it very quickly, and I find that to be true with hype as well. Anyway, I think I've bored you enough. The machine is capable of a whole lot more. But seriously, for me, it works for banging out really cool stuff quickly, efficiently, and sanely, because I'm not always sitting in a studio environment. It gets you out of the place. Additionally, you can just take everything that you just did here and save it as an Ableton Live set and open it in Ableton. You just save it in Ableton Live set, copy it on your computer, open it and go. All your clips will be intact with the sounds that they are playing. Everything gets saved along with it. So there's no headaches in translating the stuff you do on here to the stuff you're doing in the DAW. As a matter of fact, you can also use this with your DAW. I don't have it set up at the moment, but if you go into menu, you'll see right here, Live Control. Live Control lets you control Ableton Live. On your macros here, you'll see the various parameters of whatever you're using inside of Ableton. You'll notice right now I have it synced on Ableton Link. You can set up Ableton Link on your computer using Ableton, and right now this links to Ableton via Wi-Fi. I just have the AKAI Force hooked up on my house Wi-Fi, and I can link to Ableton wherever. I can sit in the back of the studio, jam out here, and control stuff, what's going on inside of Ableton. No need for a cable running to my computer, and jam out, and the two talk to each other. I've noticed I've had some difficulties sometimes in getting them to talk perfectly, like they don't always play in sync. I'm sure it's just something that I do from time to time that doesn't work out right, but the possibility is there, and it works out pretty cool. There's other things I didn't even get into, of course. I mean, you have a sampler. You can do in-depth sample editing. We didn't really get into looking too much into arrangement view. You can assign macros covering the entire instrument. The looper, which is pretty cool. We've looked at the step sequencer, the list editor, the XY XYFX. Every time you see a video, hey, check out the AKAI Force. It can do this. And then you see them like sweeping stuff around. I can tell you I use that probably 3 times in the entire time I've had this. And I've never had satisfying results using an XY pad. I don't know. They just don't speak for me. Or speak to me. I'm not into them. Not my thing. Not my thing even remotely. But anyway, all this other stuff on here very much is my jam. What more can I say? You got arpeggiators all over the place. There's more. There's loads on here. Loads and loads and loads of stuff that you can do on here. I'm going to stop boring you guys for now. Hope you enjoy a quick look at what the AKAI Force is up to and sort of how I use it in my setup for creating drum work. With that, I will leave you an out. Thanks, guys, for tuning in.